passengers on board. Egyptian authorities now saying they have found the wreckage. Let's bring in RT's Ilya Petrenko, who's been monitoring this story from the get-go. Ilya, we understand you can tell us a bit more about those people on board the plane.
Yes, the Russian media has published a list of the people that were on that plane. And according to reports from those media sources, all of them have died. And of course, the two hotlines were opened in St. Petersburg for the relatives. But for them, this is little compensation, but at least they'll be able to get more information on the victims of that plane crash.
All right, we understand approximately 100 bodies have been recovered at the site. This is the media quoting rescue workers. We're also hearing Reuters now saying voices can be heard from under the debris, possibly from survivors. Reuters allegedly citing rescue workers. Now that's going to be big news if that is actually accurate. We're going to work to confirm that here on RT International. For now, though, let's cross live to Anil Padra, a senior lecturer on aviation studies at Kingston University, joining us live here right now on RT International. Anil, thanks for coming on. Reports suggesting the pilot reported a technical malfunction and requested an emergency landing. What do you think may have caused that?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to say at the moment. I've been tracking the aircraft since it took off this morning, and the aircraft climbed fairly well. It climbed as you would normally expect the aircraft to climb. Around about 23 minutes into the flight, the aircraft achieved something like 31,000 feet. And then all of a sudden, it dropped altitude rather quickly, and it's unclear why that was. And I think it could be a number of reasons. Nothing at this stage can be ruled out. But if the pilot did report mechanical failure, then that is probably a very good explanation. It is fairly rare, though, for an aircraft to get to cruise altitude and then have an issue. Normally, if it's got some sort of mechanical problems, it will be during the climb phase when the aircraft and its engines are under the most amount of stress.
So is 9,000 meters, 31,000 feet, is that a legitimate cruising altitude for this A321?
Yeah, that's right. The aircraft would have been fairly heavy with a lot of fuel as it took off, and then you can expect the aircraft to get to about 30,000 feet, and then a couple of hours after burning off sufficient amount of fuel, it would climb to a higher altitude. But certainly 30,000 is perfectly within the normal operating altitude after takeoff.
Now, Anil, we understand that Russia is already launching a criminal investigation into a possible violation of rules of flight, a possible violation of preparation for flights as well. We're thinking that there's some sort of potential engine malfunction. It's something that the crew allegedly raised as concerns in the past week, that there may have already been technical problems with the plane. If that's the case, why was it allowed to fly?
Most aircraft will have some sort of technical issue, and often it's a very minor technical issue, and the aircraft is perfectly within the laws to continue flying, providing some sort of maintenance activity is carried out within a few days of the fault being identified. So we don't know, first of all, if there was a fault. We don't know if the fault was with the engines, and we don't know how severe that fault would have been. It would have been perfectly the case that the aircraft could have flown legally within safety requirements with a minor technical glitch that could have been corrected once the aircraft got back to Russia. So we don't quite know the exact details. It would be way too early to speculate about what could have been the case, and we haven't even confirmed yet if it was a mechanical failure.
Anil, we're getting reports that approximately 100 bodies may have been recovered so far from the crash site. This is the media quoting rescue workers in the region by the Sinai Peninsula, about 100 kilometers just outside of El Arish. We are also understanding, we're getting reports, and I really don't know how credible these are, to be honest with you. Forgive me, it's a very fluid situation of breaking news, but there are reports that voices could possibly be heard under the debris. Is it possible that people could survive a crash like this, Anil?
It's highly unlikely. For an aircraft to get to 31,000 feet or thereabouts and then to drop suddenly at a fairly high descent rate, it's likely that the aircraft would have broken up into lots of pieces, and it's likely that there would have been no survivors. But we don't know, again, the exact nature of how the aircraft hit and impacted the ground. I know from previous experience that the Sinai Peninsula, certain parts of it are rather hilly and mountainous in terms of its terrain. The details that I am aware of is that the aircraft landed in a relatively flat part of the Sinai Peninsula. And we don't know, if what the nature of the impact was. But if the aircraft had glided down, it's possible that it would have landed, with a minimum amount of impact, and it's possible that some people could have survived.
Well, we understand right now, Anil, we're just understanding at this very moment the Egyptian Aviation Ministry saying it is just too early to identify the cause behind this crash. Though it's the A321, it's a very popular airplane. It's been in service since 1988. Anil, 1,000 operating around the world. It's a good plane, yes?
No, it's a fairly safe plane. There's several thousand operating with multiple airlines around the world. It's got a very good safety record as well, and airlines generally tend to maintain it to a very high standard. So it's fairly surprising that the mechanical failure could have occurred. But obviously, it's an aircraft. It's like any other flying machine. It's possible that the aircraft may not have been maintained correctly, or we just don't know. But on the aircraft itself, fairly safe.
All right, well, that was Anil Patra, Senior Lecturer on Aviation Studies at Kingston University, joining us live here on RT International. So we apologise for losing him very quickly right there, but we will give you the latest on this breaking news here as we continue on RT International.